Welcome to the first season of the Ecologies of Danger podcast. Ecologies of Danger is a project produced by the students of a course on environmental security at Colgate University. In this season of the podcast, we look at the different ways in which the environment has become a security issue. In this episode, RMcGuire reveals how Yemen's civil war is hiding a much deeper and related problem about water.
There is no food, no water, no bedding, nothing. We were thrown out on the street. We are not wanted anywhere. How are we supposed to survive?
That was one of the millions of Yemeni citizens who have been forced into refugee camps because of the civil war in Yemen. The interview took place just a few months ago. It came after the United Nations declared the humanitarian situation in Yemen as the worst in the world. The constant violence in this already unstable country has left millions displaced, and the situation is only getting worse. But this problem cannot be blamed entirely on the war. The brutal violence, coupled with their scarce water supply, has created a nationwide crisis that is yet to be resolved. So the gravity of this crisis is as much about water as it is about war. For the past several decades, Yemen has been a country under distress. It is considered to be one of the most barren countries in the entire Arabic Peninsula. The majority of Yemen's population resides in major cities with no access to rivers or the sea. It has an increasing population, which is now above 24 million. More than half the country is below the poverty line, and to make matters worse, they are in the midst of a violent civil war.
This area is under attack right now. 3 huge airstrikes just pounded the military base, which is about, if you can just hear it, that's another explosion right now. You can hear the sound of the missile just whistling as it cuts through the wind.
That was journalist Youssef Marai walking the streets of the nation's capital, Sana'a. As you could hear, the explosions were no more than a few miles away from where they were recording. Since the beginning of 2015, Saudi-led airstrikes have killed more than 4,000 civilians. The bombing of major Yemen cities has been an attempt to isolate their enemy, the Houthi rebels, who now have control of Sana'a. As one Sana'a resident notes, civilians have suffered the brunt of these airstrikes.
I want to ask why they kill Yemeni people. We are Muslims. Why they destroyed our houses? They kill a lot of boys, a lot of girls, a lot of women, and that's forbidden. It is not Islam.
Individuals like him have been left to clean up the mess of the Saudi-led airstrikes. The main reason people like him are in the cities in the first place is because of the dwindling water resources in the countryside.
In Yemen, rural areas lack basic services, including water. In urban areas, like in the capital Sana'a, only 50% of the population have access to water infrastructure.
Recent studies suggest that water scarcity has increased significantly in recent years. These devastating numbers are the harsh reality for the majority of Yemeni citizens who have found themselves in a constant battle to provide clean water for their family. People are now depending on water resources in some of Yemen's most dangerous areas. These water holes, as they are commonly referred to, are located in regions under Houthi control. For those daring enough to travel to these wells, it can be life-threatening.
Allahu Akbar!
That was actual footage of a bomb explosion in the heart of Sana'a. But this problem does not end if they successfully access water. A lot of accessible water is unsanitary and unsafe to drink. For many, they have no choice but to risk the severe health issues. The government is aware of this issue, but is too distracted to focus any attention on mitigating clean water. But the water crisis does not stop there. Beyond displacing thousands, the water crisis is placing great strain on Yemen's agriculture. Farmers are among the most sensitive to drought, and in the Sana Basin, thanks to reporter Mario Alemi, we can see why.
Agriculture near Sana'a is becoming an increasingly expensive business. The fuel used by farmers to pump the underground water is becoming more expensive, along with the seeds and the fertilizers.
In the winter, no problem with water, but in the spring, they have a problem.
That was local farmer sharing his frustration of his limited water supply. These farmers are spending more and more money to yield less and less crops. The increasing cost of supplies is forcing a large number of farmers to abandon their land altogether. With no government support and population on the rise, water issues will only get worse. Yemen's Deputy Minister of Water had this to say about the water issue.
We now abstract from non-renewable groundwater almost 1.5 billion cubic meters each year. And in 20 years, we will be 40 million people. You can imagine that the deficit will also increase with the increase of population. So it's just very difficult.
And he's right. Well, at least partly. Population growth is an issue, but it's not the main cause of this crisis. With water levels declining rapidly, there have been devastating effects on local agriculture. The food supply is diminishing. The constant airstrikes in Sana'a will only make local food supply more important. With the increasing cost of farming crops, many farmers are finding a new way to earn an income.
So producing anything that does not cover the cost becomes not reasonable. So they started moving from those crops that are not profitable. So they moved into cash crops.
This cash crop the minister is referring to is something known as khat. It does not provide nutritional value, but instead acts as a stimulant. It is a very popular drug amongst Yemenis men. It allows farmers to make a large profit. Abdullah Athari, Department Chairman of National Water and Resource Authority, acknowledged the khat production in Yemen.
It's a very high crop. After it will be hashish only. Like in Afghanistan or Colombia or wherever. Yeah? It's a high cash crop.
The last thing Yemen needs at this point is to become more like the drug-driven conflicts of those countries. This transition from crops to khat could also create a future drug epidemic. This would only further Yemen's crisis, but the reality is that the increased drug production is decreasing food production. This again could lead to more conflict amongst the Yemeni population. The war has made Yemen incredibly unstable. Different regions of the country are controlled by different armed groups. Sometimes it seems like nothing really gets done unless, of course, it has to do with the war itself. Everything else, like adequate water supplies, has become secondary. And the people of Yemen aren't happy.
O people of good faith, O people of the world, we are living under siege, surrounded by these Houthis. No water, no electricity, the sewage is overflowing.
With these helpless citizens being displaced and innocent lives being taken, it is evident that Yemen is in the middle of a crisis. But there's more to this crisis than the fighting itself. The international community understandably focuses on the conflict, but it's ignoring one of its underlying problems, a water problem that will only get worse, opening the doors for new conflicts of the future. So, with no government intervention and the crisis getting worse, the question must be asked again. How will they survive? International institutions like the United Nations must intervene if the millions of Yemenis stand any chance of survival. With the dwindling resources and increasing violence, Yemen's only hope is humanitarian assistance from outside their country's borders. On the Yemen water crisis, this is RMcGuire of Colgate University.